human design and the gene keys today. So, if you have never come across the gene keys before, hello and welcome. I'm so glad you're here because the gene keys changed my life in all the best ways possible. Now, this is coming from a bird who has been in the spirituality world for years and years. And so, through all of my background knowledge in spirituality, where I used to do tarot, I used to do energy updates, used to do the Mercury retrograde things, all that jazz. Like I was the girl. And in this last year, since I learned my gene keys and I started really understanding mindset work on a different level, absolutely nothing in my life has ever been the same. So if you feel like you have been in this like personal development, this like spiritual world for a long time, but not really gotten the results that you were looking for, that you're really like, oh, I can like feel that there's more in my soul that it wants to experience, you are in the right freaking place. Because I feel with my whole heart, whenever you're pulled to learn about the gene keys, whenever you're pulled to like learn more about yourself and how you can be the best version of you, like you are on the edge of your next greatest unfolding. Really, like you are right on the precipice of this new big adventure that's ready to take place in your life. Like I'm speaking to the people that already have a good life, that want to go from good to fantastic to great to everything is just spilling out of every cell in my body because I'm so happy. So truly, that's not how it always was. Whenever I used to teach in spirituality, it was like pulling people out of ditches. And if you've been if you've been in the spirituality world for a long time, you know exactly what it is that I'm talking about. But it doesn't have to be that way. Even like if you're a spiritual if you're a healer, if you're just like a practitioner, if you are a business coach, even if you make fancy pancakes, it doesn't matter. There is a next level for you where you really get to shine in your gifts. You really get to stand up straight and be like, whoa, there's so much more that has just been like sleeping inside of me that is ready to come out to play. So if you know your human design, or if you know anything about your gene keys, or if you have questions, go ahead and drop them below. I usually get on here and do readings, but I have been loving doing Q&As lately because it's just a really fun way to see what kind of questions people have about these gene keys, because I know that they are so different than what most people have ever heard of. Like most people are just coming on to what human design is, much less what the gene keys are. And for me, the gene keys are like a deep dive into human design and astrology. This is like, they call it a living transmission. So it was channeled up by Richard Rudd. And it really is like a living transmission, because whenever you read these gene keys or you hear someone speak about them, like whenever it's yours, it's almost like all of the cells in your body start turning on. I remember I felt like I got struck by lightning in the best way ever. It was like taking one of those old Cosmopolitan quizzes and learning more about myself than I ever even dreamed of knowing. And it's such a fun thing to learn more about ourselves. Like, I don't think that there's any shame in that game to want to be the best freaking version of yourself. And to do that, you got to learn more about who you are. You got to learn more about your special gifts and talents. And so these gene keys really give you like this roadmap, this like guidance system of like, okay, if I lean into this, if I like lean into this kind of archetype or this kind of energy, or I start showing up in my posts this way or my videos this way, let's see what freaking happens. Because I promise you, whenever you start showing up with these like archetypal energies, you're magnetizing all of the right kind of clients into your world. In case you can be transferred from channeler from medium. From channeler from medium. I could you phrase that question in a different way? Because yeah, I would just love to answer whatever question you have, but just phrased in maybe a different way. Um, But for me, it has always been, I'm such a big believer that like we love what we love for a reason. So it doesn't matter if you love fitness. It doesn't matter if you love like business and you want to teach about it, but you're like, oh my gosh, there's already other people out there teaching about this thing. Like, how is there a place for me? I'm such a big believer that like each one of us has our own language. Each one of us has our own way, our own experiences, our own background that help us to teach on the things that we love in a way that's going to like open up the door for so many more people to understand it. So if you've ever felt like, okay, I really want to teach on this thing, but like there's other people that are doing it. Yay, gummy bears. I love gummy bears. By the way, I like put my gummy bears in the freezer I don't know if you've ever tried it, but it's super groovy. But I feel like we all have such a different way of like passing along information. So like you're not going to hear me talk about gene keys the way that anybody else would because I've just gobbled up information from different places. I let it stir and purr in my system and then I speak it through my experiences. I speak it through the images that come into my mind. And so that's what makes it like a really personalized thing whenever we work together for your business. But yeah, I'm a huge believer that like you love what you love for a reason and you're supposed to speak it in your own language because then whenever you do that, the right people can find you. So let's see. To channeler from Medium. If I'm picking up what you're laying down correctly, like do you mean activating them? Like if you were to hear somebody talk about it, like it would activate it in your system? Because that's how I've always done it. Like either through my reading or through hearing other people talk about it, it like turns on something. I'm a big believer that like when you hear the truth, you know it. And so that's what I consider activation to be. So whenever I do those mini readings for people, they're like, oh, shoot. It's like this echo through your soul that it's like, of course that's what I'm really good at. Like now as I look back and I see my life, like of course those are the things I'm really good at. Or it can be even the other way where it's like, whoa, that thing totally scares me. Like for me, whenever I learned about my gene keys, I found out that my voice was like a super powerful part of it. Oh, well, thank you. Thank you for being here. I'm so glad. I found out that my voice was a really important part of my little mission here. By little mission, I mean, no, we're making big impacts. We're making big splashes. So I found out though that my voice was a big part of it. And I had been hiding behind my writing. Like, who has been there before where you were keeping your light small, where you were like hiding under a bushel basically? Because it would be scary to get out there and shine. It would be scary to get out there and like really stand up on your soapbox and say like what your opinions are, share what you know. Because I don't know about you, but I always believed that everybody else and their mom was the expert other than me. And so these gene keys really helped me to learn like, hey, Stephanie, once you tap into your voice, nothing will ever be the same and you won't count yourself out anymore. And you'll actually like get up on this soapbox and you'll feel really good teaching the things that you know. My pearl is 18. How do I use this? Oh my God, I love the 18. This is why I get so damn excited about the 18 because two people come to my mind whenever I think about the 18. And so first and foremost, if you are brand new to the gene keys, like anybody listening, Yazel's talking about the pearl, and I call that the money making gene key, AKA like whenever you're tapped into this energy, you have the best money making ideas that come through. And so I think of two people whenever I think about this 18. The first one is Kim Kardashian. And she has this in her vocation actually. And so at the lowest level, it's called judgment. And so if you think about Kim Kardashian, how she talks to her family, how she talks to like, if everybody like went out and they were like dressed in stupid clothes and she was like, you guys, this is so dumb. And they're like, why is Kim so controlling? Like, why is she always telling us what to do? But at her highest level with that 18 is actually this divine perfectionist. It's almost like this energy of putting the bow on everything, like putting the cherry on top of any kind of project that you have. Like you're the one that not only finishes things, but you do it, you cross all the T's and dot all the I's. You're going to go even further than anybody else. And like, this has probably been kind of an issue for you before. I know, because the other person I think of is my husband who has this 18 as well, where he like, I could seriously sit there and have like popcorn and watch him clean his motorcycle or watch him. He does like sourdough breads, like everything he does, it's like meticulous. And it's like, you know, whenever he's doing something, he's doing it the right way. And so there's probably been times where like people are like, you don't have to be perfect, but you're like, oh, but like everything inside of me is telling me to like do it more, to like make the tweaks. And so this isn't about like burning yourself out. Hey, Becca, this isn't about burning yourself out. This is more about like, if you have that drive and that fire inside of you to make something better, keep tweaking it, keep adjusting it until you're like, okay, now I'm ready to let this go. And like I said, it doesn't mean that you have to beat yourself up over things, but like you go the extra mile and you make magic through that. Like there are people in this world that are really good at starting projects. There are people that are really good at holding the energy through the middle. There's people that are really good closers, but you're the one. I always like to use this example of like, I used to work at BMW and I sold cars. And every time I sold a car, I would go run into the back and I would go, there was like all these different color, big magnet bows that you see on like the car commercials. I would go run into the back and I would go grab one of those bows. And some of them were like old or like tattered, and so I'd find the prettiest bow I could find that would look really nice with that car's color and just like compliment the heck out of it. And so I'd always like run. They'd clean off the car, they'd bring it back around, and I'd put that bow on top of it. And people would come back from like lunch or come back the next day and they'd be like, oh my God, look at that. So like anytime, Giselle, that you tap into that energy of like going the extra mile, not driving yourself crazy, but of going the extra mile, that is where so much money making juice comes through for you, because most people in this world do not have high standards like you. This is a hard one for me because my life's work is the 21. Yeah. And that's all about being like that manager energy. Actually, like Becca, who is just on here, she has that 21 in her purpose. We've talked about it before. And that's all about like being this person that straddles the line in between being like the overbearing boss and being like the hippy dippy boss. So you really have to find your own way, and like ways to channel it even outside of your work as well is going to be very, very beneficial and good for you. But I love that 18. Like, I think that is so fun. Yeah. I love that 18. It's so much fun. Like I always say, when my husband mops the floor, which like usually like I'll take the mop and I'll fly around on the mop like it's a little witch's broom. In 5 minutes, I'm like, done, it's mopped, it's good. But like when he does it, he like mops for a half an hour and then the floor is sparkling clean for 5 days. So like it makes sense whenever you're going to do something to do it to the best of your ability. So don't be hard on yourself if you're one of those people. How do we find our gene keys? Are they part of our human design chart? Yes. So it is like grabbing some of the information from your human design chart and then splashing it over in like a different kind of chart. So it's 11 different circles. And so the first time I saw it, I was like, what does all of this madness mean? Because at least like human design is like, oh, that's a body. Like that makes sense. So the gene keys are like 11 different circles, but it just gives you a deeper dive into those human design gates and shows you like what's the energy of your career, what's like your life's purpose, how do you evolve, how do you grow, like how do you shine from the inside out. So it's just a different way of looking at that same information. I'm buddy with so many human design readers that like I love to think of them as married, but for me gene keys just made more sense. They clicked for me, and then I literally learned human design in 4 days because I was like, oh, I get it now. But like human design didn't make sense for me until I learned the gene keys. So what you can do if you are brand spanking new to the gene keys, just go Google free gene key profile and the gene key website will come up. You enter your date, time, location of birth, and 11 circles will come up, and it's really, really groovy. If you want to learn how to read it, I also have a freebie in the link in my bio where I break down like all of the basics for you, and it's super cool. I was open to over 400 gene keys, and they are saying through evolving they can be used. Over 400 gene keys. I know of 64 gene keys, so I'm not sure about the 400. But it is one of those things that whenever you learn stuff and you learn it in your own way, you go with that. You go with how you learn it. How did you start reading them professionally? So I literally would just read them for free for people and do them for myself. And it used to take me a really long time. I have a course running right now, and I was just telling them the other day, I'm like, to break down the pearl sequence, like 4 of them, I would like sit and do lives with other entrepreneurs and business owners. And I wanted to like go for like the big fish. So I had people on my channel that were making like $100,000 weeks. And I was like, I want to see how these work for these people. Like if it lines up, if it plays, because I saw how much it did for my business. And I wanted to experiment and see what it could do for other people that were having like $20,000 months, that were having like $14,000 days. I was just like, let's see what they're leaning into. And so I just started like showing up and doing this like as a service and as a way for like me to take the information that I learned and actually start applying it. And so really they say it takes 18 minutes a day to become an expert at something, but I was putting in way more time than just 18 minutes every day, like learning these gene keys. And then I would teach them on Insight Timer. I'd teach them over again. I'd write notes. So like a lot of people, they're like, they come across the gene keys and they're very, very smart. And they're like I've seen so many people that are brilliant that come across this information and they like just put the book down because they're like, it is too much. Like there's too much going on. And I get that on such a deep level. But I found out in my gene key chart that I am somebody that can take complex esoteric topics and break them down easily. So like it was no wonder that I was always hungry for that information. It was because it's like, Stephanie, you're supposed to decode this in a way where you can take 6 pages of information and give it to somebody in a sentence, give it to somebody in a paragraph, in an emoji, so that they can take it and run with it. So that's why I speak about them differently than you hear anywhere else, because I let it stir and purr through my own language, and then I speak it like that. And plus, I see them through the lens of business. I'm a 5-year entrepreneur. I moved across the country to become a lavender farmer 5 years ago, started making all natural products, knew nothing about lavender, nothing about natural products, but just rolled with it. And I sold that company last December to go full pull into helping other people with their businesses using the gene keys, using human design, stuff like that. So I'm very passionate about business. And not only that, a lot of people that you hear that there's not even a lot of people talking about it. I know, because whenever I first started trying to learn about this, I was like, where are the videos? Like, where are the posts? Like now you're seeing more in this last year where like human design readers are pulling gene keys into their work. But whenever I started talking about this, like there wasn't a lot of people saying anything. There was like 2 people like kind of talking about it on Instagram. And so it scared the living daylights out of me. But I was like, I have to start speaking about this through my lens, even though it scared me. Like it totally scared me. But the more I did it, the more I practiced, the more comfortable I've gotten. And so those readings that used to take me an hour to sit down and just like deconstruct 4 gene keys, I started getting on these lives, and I've done hundreds of readings at this point now, where I would do like these little speed readings where we would talk about the archetypes of the gene keys and how you could like turn that on in your system, how you could be like, ooh, like for me, I found out that I was the success oracle. That's the 32nd gene key. And I was like, that makes so much sense for like what I used to do with my psychic medium work. Even like whenever I used to make all natural products, like that's something that can make other people be successful because they're being healthy, because they're being natural. So it was always just like success oriented. And so I realized through that archetype, like I wanted to start a business around that. And so I loved telling people about like their pearl. I love telling people about their genius so that they can like latch onto it. They can sink their teeth into it. They can like, because it starts with mindset work. It really is. We lock in these special gifts and abilities into our mind, like, hey, you're really, really good at that. And then you naturally just start showing up as this person. And it's banana pants crazy, like how quickly your life can change. After years of being in the spirituality world, I used to teach shadow work. I used to teach emotional healing, emotional body healing, and it was no longer serving me. I found these gene keys. I felt so activated and excited. I realized I don't need to be the one that pulls people out of ditches anymore. I'm actually sunshine in a bottle, and that's okay because that's what feels good to me. And so that's what I love to teach. I love to show people that already have a good life how to make it fucking great. Like that is the coolest thing, right? How to make money doing what you love, what your soul's gifts are. It's one thing to be able to break down. It's another to teach it. Yeah. And it's just through practice, just like practicing it over and over. And so that's the thing. I played with it a lot. You got to be willing to not say it exactly like the book says it, so that it can get across to the right kind of people. That used to scare the living daylights out of me to say something that was different from the book. And now I teach everything that's like, it's like I got my inspiration from the book, but then I channel it through my own way. Okay, so the pearl. So I saw we were asking about the pearl before. So what does the pearl mean? Divine celestial being. Thank you for being patient. Yes. So the pearl is really like at the heart and soul of your gene key chart. And so for me, like I said, I call it the money making gene key. And really, whenever you respect this energy, you are open to incredible money making ideas, because it's not even just about being like, universe, like give me all the money that I want. It's about like tapping into this energy and actually like getting your hands dirty, like taking action. Like I'm a big believer that God can't do to you what he can do through you. Like you are plugged in to this source, you are plugged into this quantum field that wants to like channel a genius through you. And I feel like whenever we respect that energy of our pearl, we're aware of it, that like everything starts to shift in our life. So for me personally, I found out that my pearl was the 33. And that was one of those that like bored me at first, because sometimes you'll come across a gene key and you'll be like, I love you, I want to learn more about you. And other times you'll come across them and be like, grr, get out of here. Like, I don't know, I don't like your business. And so that was one of those that like, it was one of the archetypes they used for the 33rd gene key was the shaman. And I had taken my animal shamanism course the summer before. I had been in the spirituality world for years. And oh, you're a 33. Cool. Okay, then it does. And by the way, whether you have a 33 or not, anytime I talk about a gene key, understand that there is pieces of gold in this for every single one of us, because we all have 64 of these. Like we have all 64 of these gene keys, but whenever we shine a spotlight on it and we make that important, that's what really turns it on in our system. So I have plenty of gene keys that aren't in my chart that just through learning about them or doing them with like other business owners, I've turned that on in my system, and now I hold that energy too. And so, oh, Tanya, so I wasn't really into it because it was described as the shaman energy. And like I was saying, I was kind of coming out of my spiritual world phase and more of like into the mindset and of the creating my own reality. So I was kind of like bored with it, to be honest. And somebody else called it retreat. And I was like, like that doesn't sound like fun. But then, because, most of the things that are really, really good for us at first, we're like, what is this business? So what I found out was like, I kind of just let it sit in my system, and I would picture myself sitting on the beach, just getting like alerts for $12,000. Like I saw myself like the moment that I step away and I was in my own energy, that's where the money came from. And so instead of, and Tanya, you'll probably relate to this as well, I used to be the person that would like put out fires for people all of the time. Like the same people would call me every single week, people that I love, people that I care about, but they would have the same kind of problems, but just with a different mask on it, just with different faces, and expect me to either listen or to solve it for them. And whenever I stopped picking up that phone and stopped getting involved in their world and started really taking much more time for me and what was going on in my brain, all of the best energy and money making ideas have come through that, because you do really well, Tanya, whenever you're not disturbed. Like, and so, there's only so much of our life that we can go without like communicating with others, but you really are this like master contemplator, and you have incredible ideas that haven't been done here yet that want to come through you. But if you're picking up on everybody else's stuff all the time, and this is another thing too, I decided to be a retired empath. Like I cut the cord last year. I'd been an empath my entire life. And like, that feeling whenever you find out that you're an empath, you're like, everything makes sense. But then I did it for years, and I was like, I'm still giving my power away to so much shit that's outside of me. Like whether it's at a restaurant, whether it's Mercury retrograde, whether it's like the full moon, I'm giving my power away and I'm not here for it anymore. So there is this sense of like, you become the captain of your own ship, and you just decide you're going to set the tone for your life instead of picking up on everybody else's stuff. So that was another really important thing that I learned from that 33 as well, is that I wanted to set the tone. I wanted to have my own space. And the crazy banana pants thing is, once I started doing that, I had so much more energy to like show up and do these lives. I would teach 3 classes a week on Insight Timer, and like I could talk on these for hours. I was like I pump out content now, like it's nobody's business. And so everything changes once you let yourself just like tune more into you and you're not so worried about everybody else, because actually you end up, by taking your attention off of that, you end up helping the people that are already willing to help themselves, that are already leading themselves, and you just get to be a compliment in their life. So it's incredible. It is a beautiful thing. But so the pearl, yeah, it's a really you have the 33 in your vocation cosmic journey. Yeah, that's a really prominent space for it. Blah, 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 going back up. Oh my gosh, the Gene Key 43 is so fun because that's the rebel. Like you are a straight up rebel. And so, however you're showing up in your content right now, it's almost like you're being asked to turn up the volume 10 times more, because you don't need to go by the rules of whatever it is that you're doing right now. You're supposed to bust them down, like bust down the barricades and just be this person that's like a bit untamed. Be this person that isn't concerned about what other people are saying. Like you're so into your own thing. Like, do you think about like all of the like kind of like bad kids, or like in the Breakfast Club, there's like that one guy and you're just like rebellious. He just like did things differently. Like you're edgy. You're supposed to be edgy. You're supposed to be not for everybody, you know? So lean into that rebellious nature that's inside of you. And actually that can give you so much juice for content, because you'll pick up on what other people are doing. You'll be like, no, I see it this way. That's different. So yeah, be a rebel. Do things like disrupt the status quo. Blah, blah, blah. Let's go down. Let's go down. Ooh, your life's purpose. Nice. Oh, yeah. And so you're really supposed to use your voice. If that's a 43.5, because that 5 down there at the bottom, that is it, like they're all of those decimals after, they have to do with like your human design profile lines, right? All of those ones are about the body, or about the human body. And so that one in particular is your voice. So it's all about being willing to get up on your soapbox and speak those rebellious things that you see are different. You can use them for light or shadow. So I came into the Gene Keys because there's the shadow, there's the gift, and there's the city. So like the shadow is like at the lowest level whenever you're like having trouble with that thing. There's the gift, which is like once you really like come into yourself, that's what you're going to be living in most of the time. Then there's the city, which is like at the zenith, you're like living the highest. I used to think that we needed to be up at like the very tippity top all the time, but actually there's so much juice in the gift, just living in that it's magical. But I came into this work after years of shadow work and really like circling the drain. I was a spiritual paleontologist, where it was like I was sitting in a hole amongst all of the bones of my past. It was like, this is from my dad. This is from my grandma. This is the time that boy hit me in the face with a cupcake whenever I was in 4th grade and I didn't feel cool anymore. Like I was just sitting with all of the crap from my past, trying to navigate my life from the storm. And instead, whenever I found these Gene Keys, it in like real mindset work, it came in at the exact same time. But it was like this light shone from up above and was like, hey, Stephanie, like, what if we don't focus on this past anymore? And what if we start putting all of the eggs in the basket of what it is that you want to create, how it is that you want to live your life? And I was like, I'm scared. Like, this is uncomfortable. This is different than everything I've taught before. Like, it's so different than everything I taught before that I felt weird even talking about it. I felt weird even making posts about it. But everything inside of me was like, it's time to face the light. It's time. And like, as a 5, if you have a 5 in your profile line too, you can relate to this as well. But this goes for anybody that's listening. Just because you can solve a problem does not mean it's for you. So just because I used to do shadow work and I used to help people go through their traumas and navigate through that, that's not where my soul was lit up anymore. What lights me up is literally being like freaking rainbow bright in somebody's life. What lights me up is being that sunshine in a bottle, being an activator instead of somebody that helps people on the other part, like the other point of it. Like, just because I can do it doesn't mean that I have to. So just because you're skilled at something doesn't mean that that's a problem that you have to solve. You get to do what you want to do. And so for me, facing towards the light, putting all of my eggs in the basket of success, and this is not positive vibes only that I teach. What I teach is true success orientation, getting your mind right and deciding you get to be this person that has incredible things happen in your life. And I think spirituality keeps a lot of people small. The traditional way of like teaching spirituality, it keeps us trapped in the shadow, where your shadow work cock blocks your success after a while. So you have to be very aware. Like, there's a line, there's an awareness line of like, okay, I know that that's something that I need to address, but also it's going to be such a bigger payoff if I just keep moving forward, because all you have is now in your future. And so there would have been a time that I would have, like, if I would have heard somebody speaking this way, I would have been like a feral cat. Like, I would have been like, no, that's so different than what I believe. Like back in the day when I was all about feminine flow and just like, universe, give me everything I want. But I've fallen in love with action this year. I've fallen in love with like getting my hands dirty and seeing what I can create in my business. And absolutely nothing has ever been the same since I just decided to lean into success. So take the pieces that you need from that and let go of the rest. Okay. So it's all for you. You get to believe whatever you want to believe, whether you're like, yes, Stephanie, preach, or you're like, okay, there's a little nugget that I need to take. All right, let's see. That's a good question though. So yeah, you can use it for whatever you want. I even tell people, like, I see the Gene Keys through the lens of business because I'm an entrepreneur and I love business. I love teaching people how to make money doing what they love, like doing what lights their soul up. I think that's super groovy. But if you wanted to teach the Gene Keys through the lens of relationships, you most definitely could do that. If you wanted to teach it through the lens of health, you could most definitely do that. I keep screwing with my little tripod. And so it's up to you, like what you find is important. If I'm looking at the Human Design app, are my Gene Keys the numbers that are highlighted in the blue? Highlighted in the blue. Like, are you talking about blah, 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 like your conscious and unconscious sun and earth, like those tippity top ones? So pretty much your Gene Keys takes like, it takes what, like some of your Mars placements, it takes some of your Jupiter placements. And I don't even think that they're done with the Gene Keys yet. From what I've heard from like the inside scoop is like, they're adding more Gene Keys to the chart, which is probably going to like bring in your Uranus and Neptune, things like that. But has to do with like your moon. So it just pulls some of that information and brings it over into a different chart of like how to look at the energy of your work and your career, how to like how you make money. And so it just gives it a little bit of a different vibe and just gives you more information about yourself. Oh, I'm glad that you like how I explain things. Thank you, Divine. And I love your mermaid. It makes me happy. Are you supposed to focus on one gift at a time as you work through the Gene Keys? Because it's a lot. You can take it at whatever pace feels good for you. Like, for me, because I was supposed to teach this, like I may have a different path than you when it comes to learning. So for me, I gobbled it all up at once because it made sense to me. Like, I'm not somebody that could wire a house, but like for me, like that made sense. And so if it's not like really enjoyable, or if it feels like it's too much for you, then just like take it one at a time, because you get intimate with that one at a time. That's actually how the regular like Gene Keys, if you would do like the traditional Gene Key route of like learning how to do it, they're very much about like contemplation and taking your time with it. For me, my brain just I gobbled it all up because I knew I was supposed to get out there and start teaching it, and so it just hit different. So take it as it feels good for you. Like, move with it as it feels good. If you want to sit with one Gene Key for a month and marinate on it, like, that is so groovy. That is so for you. And I love that we can do this because like it's really about tapping into these archetypes, into these higher qualities. So like if you wanted to make a month where you just focused in on one Gene Key and just like being this person and showing up that way, that sounds pretty cool to me too. Like, do it your way. Blah, blah, blah. I'm a manifesting generator and a 6-2. I am needing to define a new job for myself. So I would first, Kate, look at that life's work energy, that very, very top gene key whenever you're pulling up your chart. And that will give you a little bit more insight onto the actual energy that you bring into your career. So for me, I needed that guidance too whenever I started this, because truly I knew I could help people, right? Like, I feel like a lot of us like have that feeling like I'm here to make an impact. I'm here to do something different, but you don't always know how to like put it in words. And so when you learn these certain gene keys, it helps put those things into words that maybe you haven't heard it said that way before, or maybe it'll click something in your brain where you'll see like this timeline of all of those strengths popping up that you're like, oh my God, of course, this is what I'm really good at. And so for me, it's all about like, I'm big on like, I'll see something and then I get really inspired from it, or I'll learn something new from it, or it'll make me think differently about myself. So that's really what these gene keys do. And as a manifesting generator, what I always love to tell manifesting generators, because sometimes you can feel like I have a squirrel brain. Like I grew up with a mom and a stepdad who are manifesting generators. My business mentor is a manifesting generator. Like I have 2 people in my course right now that are manifesting generators. I guess I'm a little magnet for the MG peeps. But I always tell them, I'm like, just because you have a bit of a squirrel brain and just because you have so many interests and love to have different projects, like the one thing that I always recommend for people that are manifesting generators, because I know people that have like that woman I was talking about that makes $100,000 weeks. Like she's a manifesting generator, but everything she teaches is through the lens of manifestation. So she brings all of her interests through one prism. So make sure that as you gobble up all of these different things that you love, have one solid base foundation that you teach through. And even though I'm not a manifesting generator, I had to do that with the gene keys as well, where I could have learned it and then easily moved on to something else. I was like, no, I'm going to plant my flag here. I'm going to make this my home and I'm going to start being experimental through this one thing. So keep that in mind whenever you're thinking about jobs and stuff like that. I also see decimals next to the planet. Ashley, this is where I get so excited. Ugh. Okay, so the decimals. Okay, if you're brand new or if you just want like a different way, like some of you, if you watched my live before, you may have heard me explain it this way, but for me, it never gets old because I love explaining this. So when we're thinking about our gene keys, like when we see our gene key, there's 2 numbers inside of it, right? It's the same with like that human design chart. Let me take a drink of water before I get into this. That's cold in the best way possible. Okay. So how I love to picture it is in that human design chart behind each one of the planets, in each one of those circles in your gene key chart, there's 2 numbers. And the first number is that gene key. And so the gene keys can be anywhere from the number 1 through the number 64. So there's 64 different options. So I love to picture it as 64 different racehorses, but they're all different heights. They're all different breeds. There's Palominos, there's paint horses, there's quarter horses, there's Arabian horses, there's ponies. They're all mixed in, all 64 of them. They represent each of the 64 gene keys. And so in my life's work, in that very tippity top one, I have the 32nd gene key. So we're going to pull out the 32nd horse. So that is the energy that is going to get me to the finish line with my career. So let's say he's a little paint horse. I always use a paint horse as the example because my dad had paint horses whenever I was little. So he's a little paint horse. And so that's just the energy that I show up with in my career. And then the decimal points is where it gets juicy and interesting. This is where the human design lines, like the profile lines, come into play, where I'm very passionate about the profile lines. Like I love my human design girls. They're all my buddies that I go on lives with and I talk with all the time, but they really focus on type and authority. I've always been such a lover of the profile lines. I'm like, this is where the juice is. Like there's so much here. And so this is really like every single gene key takes a deeper dive into those profile lines and gives you even like different lines outside of just like your normal profile lines. And so I want you to think of the the second number, so the decimal, it can be a 1 through 6. So think about that as 6 different jockeys. So one of the jockeys is in blue, one's in purple, one's in yellow, and one of them's sassy, one of them's friendly, one of them's fun. My number is a 32.5. So we grabbed that 32nd horse and we're going to grab that 5th jockey. And that's how I'm going to ride out that energy of my career. And so you can see with 64 different horses, 64 different gene keys, and 6 different jockeys, 6 different profile lines, the numbers after the decimal, how different all of us are, like how totally different we all are, and how many different combinations there can be of energy, and why you're so freaking unique. I'm still like up here, so I'm just scrolling down as I go. Okay, where do I find my gene keys? Go to free gene key profile. I love that you get so fired up. Thank you, Becca. I do get excited. Just skimming through the books, I didn't understand. I feel this is me. So I learned the Gene Keys modality. I took the courses online, but truly I taught myself. I genuinely just took the courses because I knew I was going to be talking about Gene Keys a lot. So I just wanted to be like, hey, I'm a Gene Key guide. Like I'm going to be putting this on all of my things. But I didn't even really like study the courses because whenever I would bring them up, it just didn't excite me. I really taught myself through becoming obsessed with the books, through like kind of mad scientist that I went with it. And really, I would study the human design gates. I would study the Chinese I Ching, and then I'd study the gene keys and all these different interpretations. I call it the kitchen sink approach. I'd study all of these different ones, and then I let them stir and purr in my system. I started doing readings for people, and then my own interpretation started coming out. So whenever you talk with me and we do the gene keys, you're not going to hear me say the exact same thing as anybody anywhere else, because I've formed my own kind of vocabulary and my own kind of understanding that helps other business owners to build up their business, to shine their light, and to make money online their way. So, yeah, that's why I love teaching gene keys in a quick, potent, easy way. Because back in the day, I would have loved like an option for Gene Keys for Dummies or like the Idiot's Guide to Gene Keys. Because like I like to learn fast. I like to learn quick. But it took me into this deep diving of learning so that I could skim down all of this information, and instead of 6 pages, give you an emoji, give you a paragraph, give you a sentence. So that's what I feel very passionate about. Okay, but which decimal is the gene key? Don't even know which app you're using. So if you just Google free gene key profile and you pull up your chart, you'll see on each one of those circles, there's the 2 numbers. And so the gene key is the first one. So the 1 through 64, and it'll be one of those numbers. And then the second one is that profile line. Of course. So, hey, if you're lost, make sure you go to the link in my bio, and I have a gene key freebie. So it breaks it down in a way that's like a little bit clearer. If you're somebody like maybe you're very visual. So maybe that will help you to understand how I break it down a little bit easier. There are like 100 different numbers on my human design chart, and none of them are labeled. Yeah. And that's just what I studied. Like I just studied all of them. That's what it made me genuinely excited. So if it's not one of those things that like, it makes you genuinely excited to do all of that, that's why there's people like me and human design readers that can like give you that wisdom lickety split. So you don't have to spend all of that time. You can just go out there doing the things that you love. None of them are color coded like that. Yeah. Just go download that freebie. It makes it easier. It makes it easier to understand. Blah, blah, blah. Does anyone else have any questions about the gene keys while we're hanging out and while we're just chilling out here? Or your human design and your business? Is anybody like building up their online business right now? Because I love to hear about that kind of stuff. This last year has been very dedicated to my business and to growing it online, and it's been fun. It's been interesting. It's been me, go. Oh yeah, you are. Yeah. Of course you are. Oh my goodness. Becca does human design through the environment. So, oh my gosh, if you love interior design, you better go follow her soon because she's about to blow up with all this stuff. More people need to decorate their houses based on their environment. blah, blah. Yes, I quit my job as an electrical engineer to start life coaching business. Giselle, that is so cool. I love that. And know what's really groovy too is there's probably a lot of juice from what you learned doing that other stuff that you can start sprinkling and bringing forward if you haven't already. I'm such a big believer that like we have our eclectic backgrounds for a reason. We've gone through our experiences for a reason. I used to be like, why have I done car sales? Like I was an x-ray clerk. I was a bartender for years. I went to school for biology and like all of those things you could have been like, those will fail you. And it's like, no, no, no. Like I have a collection of knowledge that nobody else has all mixed together. So you're the same way. And now you can use it in your business. That is awesome. So the Gene Keys are like a deep dive into your human design and astrology. They call it a living transmission. So basically, whenever you hear this information, whenever you read it, it turns on something in your system. It turns on something in your DNA, and you start to hold yourself differently. You start to believe different things about yourself. And it's almost like those sleeper agents or something when you like say a certain word and they're like, hey, I'm awake, I'm alive. Like that's how it felt for me. So I love that you put it that way. Yeah, because I used to be like so embarrassed about all of the different things about being a lavender farmer and a psychic medium. And now I'm like, I learned all of that stuff for a reason. Like I learned everything that I need to know for a reason. I talk about being a lavender farmer all the time. I talk about doing my psychic medium work all the time in my business now and like how that knowledge has helped me. So you're welcome. About to start selling all this art. Cool. Yes. I love that. Yeah, these gene keys, this would be a fun thing for your art as well, like tapping into these different gene keys and like making different projects out of these archetypes. I love that. You like hold yourself as this person while you do your art. Super groovy. Starting to realize I don't think I could do one more thing for the rest of my life. Yeah, for sure. I think that more of us are meant to like explore and do things differently. It's just like there's that old standard of like staying with the thing that you've always been doing, and it's like that doesn't even exist anymore. Like we are here to live. If there is one thing that I learned in my time as a psychic medium, I thought I was going to do that forever. I thought I was going to be Teresa Caputo. Like the readings that I would have were so freaking beautiful. And it would literally be like that person was right here having a conversation with me and their loved one. And I was just like, oh my God, this is so great. But after doing it for a while and after learning these gene keys, actually, it felt like a nudge from the other side of being like, we're good. You don't need to keep helping us. Like help the people that are living live their life. And so that is what this past year has been. It's just this like insane unfolding of like, how to live your best life with your gifts and abilities. Do you do post gene keys for people to read? You post gene keys for people to read. I post about the gene keys a lot. Yeah. So over on my TikTok or here on my TikTok and over on Instagram, I have lots of stuff. I'm creating content daily about gene keys, about content creation, about building up your confidence for your online business. So there's lots of good groovy stuff to be had. Yes. Yeah, we're supposed to be living our best life while we're here. Like what I really learned is like our life is such a blank that it's like, why not whoop it up while we're here? Like, why not have a freaking party and like do all the things that scare the living daylights out of us and see what we're capable of? Because I don't know about you, but I do not want to be 79 and be like, oh, I should have done this. I should have done that. What if I would have done this? No, we're going full pull. We're going balls to the walls and seeing what we're capable of. Because one of my favorite things, I've been reading this book for like a while now, and I just refer back to it. It was like a simple read. It was about like having faith. And one of my favorite quotes from it was like it was about using your talents and like putting a demand on your talents, like seeing what you're capable of. And so that's what I feel like I do whenever I get on these lives and I talk for like, I just show up and I just talk and I don't know what's going to come, but like, I know that I'm developing my voice more, but B, like I'm getting to form relationships, but I'm also like getting to learn how to answer these kinds of questions even better. And so if I was too scared to get on these lives because I was like, oh, I don't know what to expect, then I would not be putting a demand on my talent. And so the talent wouldn't grow. You have to be willing, like whatever it is, even if it scares you, to water that seed and continue to water it, even when it feels uncomfortable, even whenever it feels like the seed is like, is this seed ever going to come out of the ground? Like, what in the heck is happening with the seed? He has been there for a while. Like, whenever you just keep watering it and you just keep giving it attention, giving it love, in a very short amount of time, you will be so undeniably talented with what it is that you care about that you cannot be ignored, that you cannot help but make a splash. Like most people are not willing to just like get over that hump and do things whenever they're awkward at it, do things whenever they feel cringeworthy, do things whenever they feel uncomfortable, whenever it's an investment that's really big, whenever it's being brave and like getting up and talking in front of people that's really big. Like most people won't do that, but you're not most people. Like you're not most people, especially if you're here hanging out, listening. Like you're not meant to be like everybody else. You're meant to write the book. You're meant to stand on the stages and speak. You're meant to be that online internet personality that helps people, that gets recognized, that makes an impact. So there's a reason that you're here. There is a reason that you're listening. And it is to wake up something even bigger that is inside of you that is just calling out your name and wants to see the light of day. Nice. You booked a house staging yesterday. Oh my God. Are you kidding me? This is amazing. Okay, so you had 2 people reach out to you, and then now you're going to do that. This is like the magic of whenever you just decide to shine the light on what your soul wants you to do. Like Becca is in one of my courses right now, and she literally just started putting her stuff out there that she does like human design environments and like really good interior design. Like she has such a, God, her videos are incredible. She has such a good eye for like what looks nice. And she's already getting clients. She's already booking people like just from being like, hey, I'm just deciding I'm going to show up as this person now. Like that's how quick shit happens. Like it, I love this, Becca. God, I'm so happy. I'm so happy. Super serious. So funny. My doggy Jean. That's funny. I have people on Instagram all the time, like the people that try to like come in and be like your virtual assistant. They're like, hey, Jean. It's like, that's not my name. I think it's funny though. God, Becca, that is so cool. I love what happens whenever we just put ourselves out there and we're like crystal clear about what it is that we want to do. Like you never know what happens whenever, if you would just get really, really clear about what it is, how you want to help people, how somebody will be like, I would like help with that. Crazy pants bananas. Auntie, brushed my hair today. So that's a good start for me. That is a good start. Oh, Becca, I cannot wait to see like all of the pictures and the videos that you do on this new page. Like you have such a good eye. I'm so excited. Ooh, Gene Key number 4. Oh, I'm glad that you like it. Gene Key number 4, they call it the philosopher. And I always think about this is like a very logical energy. So like you are somebody that is always going to seek the answers. And you are somebody that is always going to try to find that missing piece of the puzzle. So like you have this hunger for these answers. And sometimes to the point where like it drives you a little bit crazy because you like want to answer all the questions of the universe. But really, whenever you just trust that like the puzzle pieces will all fall into place in time, and actually some of your best ideas come from thinking outside of the box. This is an exercise that I want you to try that I used to do for a while. And this just came to my mind. I haven't talked about this for a minute, but literally like write down whatever issue you're having, whatever problem you're trying to solve. And then I want you to step back and pretend like you are looking at yourself and you're somebody else. So somebody like pretending that you're somebody you really look up to. So I used to read and listen to a lot of Bob Proctor. I love listening to like Kobe Bryant's old videos whenever he would talk about like motivation and like staying the course and hard work and like I don't know, like Einstein and like I even like I love Lady Gaga. So like I used to write down whatever I would have going on and then I'd literally step to the other sides of my desk. This is like a Bob Proctor practice and pretend like I was that person and what advice that person would give me. And so sometimes you're going to need to do that. You're going to need to get the heck out of your own way and put yourself in a different set of shoes of like somebody that you really admire, somebody that you look up to, and be like, what would they say? What would they suggest about this situation? And then you run back over to the other side of your desk and you write it down, And I'm going to tell you what, some of the coolest things that I've ever had happen have come from me doing that. So just see yourself as this person. You always find that last piece of the puzzle, but sometimes you have to get out of your own way, get out of the box so that you can solve it. Blah, blah. Human design. Oh, yeah. Thank you for answering that for me, Auntie. Yeah, it's like a deep dive into human design and astrology. Beep, 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 beep. God, Becca, I'm so excited. I love fashion and I like cooking, but I don't know where to start. Oh my gosh. How could you combine both of those things through one prism, through one lens? That's like lifestyle blogging. Like, okay, I want to say out loud right now, we are living in the best time ever. I used to not feel that way. I used to just like be waiting for the aliens to come. But like I now am like, holy shit. Like we are living in the best time ever because you don't like to build a personal brand, to make 7 figures doing what you love. You can literally turn on your phone. Like I'm not wearing shoes right now. You know what I mean? Like I'm sitting here in my house, not wearing shoes, getting to talk to people all over the world. You know what I mean? Like how fortunate are we? Like if this was 100 years ago, 150 years ago, we would have had to go ride a horse town to town to sell our books, to speak what it is that we thought was important for people to know who the heck we were. So recognize right now that like you have a device in your hand that you can start posting about whatever it is that you love and build a business from that. So like, hello, we're winning already. Like you have something in your hand right now that allows you to win and allows you to thrive. So first and foremost, we have to have that mindset of like, okay, like the world is my oyster. The sky's not even the limit. And then just start learning from other people who have built up their online business, right? So this isn't just about the energy, having groovy vibes. This is about, yes, you're going to have the right kind of mindset about building your business and about showing up online, but you're also going to learn as you go. Like I ended up investing 5 figures in a business mentor when I still had my other business, when I didn't really like, I had 0 clients and I invested 5 figures because I knew that this person had results and because I knew that her insight would speed that process along for me. And so, yeah, I know that that move's not for everybody, but for me, how seriously I took my business, I went full pull. And I started posting like 8 to 10 times a day on TikTok. I started showing up on lives. I went live every single day on Instagram for 4 months. The reason I stopped was because my grandpa passed away and I had to go back home, and it helped me get more crystal clear with how I show up now. But I just went balls to the wall. So like find the thing that you love that you want to talk about, because it's just going to get deeper from there. Like you have to start somewhere. You can't wait till you're perfect. You have to start somewhere, start posting so that you can get the suck out, so that you can get the cringe out and get really good at what it is that like your messaging is, who it is that you're talking to, and really just be willing to learn. Like most people are like, here's your quick fix. And I'm like, no, every single person I've invested in, every single course that I've taken, every single thing has been another brick. There is not one answer. Like I'm telling you right now, there is not one answer. It's the things that you're pulled to are going to stack up until you have 1,000,000 bricks on your house. And then it's going to make sense. You're not going to be able to connect the dots looking forward. You connect them whenever you look backwards, as Steve Jobs said. So I didn't know whenever I invested in the Business Mentor. I didn't know whenever I invested in the Gene Key course just so I could talk about the Gene Keys, even though I had taught myself. I didn't know that that was going to make me money. But I just knew that I wanted to learn more and I wanted to go full pull and that I had an opportunity and it was my job to be visible so I can make the biggest impact possible. But I'm like, all right, let's go. Let's do this. Like I promise you, you'll figure it out as you go. So if you love those things, you already have a leg up on most people because most people can't even figure out what they love. So kudos to you. Sometimes I take job setting, showing up. Sometimes, hang on, let me go. I sometimes take job setting up and showing and taking down real estate showings. Nice. And like all of our different eclectic knowledge, it blends in for something that we're going to need later. Very interesting, enlightening. You're welcome. Isabella networking. I have boxes and business cards. Yay. Oh gosh, Becca. Yeah, I'm just so excited. Service-driven leadership is important. When we help and empower others' dreams, we help and empower our own for sure. Yes. Oh, I'm so glad that you like that. Yay. Yeah, it's just about like deciding to go full pull and just going full pull. Like, because we figure it out along the way. I was doing a live on Instagram earlier. I'm doing a masterclass on content creation in 2 weeks. And so I'm very excited about it. It's part of my like no-brainer summer. It's $99 to get in on this world of Gene Keys and start learning about them so you can like open up these creative juices and just start posting every single day. I used to be somebody that like wanted to slam my head in my computer whenever it came to posting, even though I knew I needed to do it. And so it's one of those things that like, I just kept doing it and I just kept showing up and like an ice sculpture, like at first you have to like kind of like take the big chunks out, right? But once you've taken those bigger chunks out and you're just kind of like throwing the spaghetti at the wall, as they say at first, then you get more and more clear. You get more and more definite with your movements and with like how you carve out that ice, how you post, how you show up, when you show up, like what you talk about. And then you have this freaking ice sculpture of a swan. But at first you had to get off those big chunks and just go for it, go banana pants crazy on that ice sculpture. And then you got to get like really, really precise as time goes on. New here. Can you explain the Gene Keys and their relationship to business? Yes. So I love the Gene Keys because it's like a deep dive into human design and astrology. I see these as like a roadmap to our success. So there are these archetypes inside of our Gene Keys that if we tune into them and if we get inspired by them and take action from them, we can show up in our business as a totally different person. So I personally found out my voice was very, very important for my business. But at that time, whenever I learned this, I was hiding behind my writing. And I would do like one live every 3 months. And I would also, it was scattered. Like the things that I would talk about were like very scattered. So once I learned to channel my voice into like one thing and just like get up there and do it and take action with my voice, start teaching the courses, start showing up on the internet all the time, I unleashed this talent inside of myself that had been there the whole time, but just needed like a musical instrument. It needed to be practiced. It needed to be played with so that I could shine with that thing. So we were talking about somebody else earlier. I think it was Divine. She has like the 43, which is the rebel. She needs to be using her voice in a rebellious way, not in a like F everybody else way, but in a like, hey, this is how I feel about this. This is how I see it different. And so when she taps into that rebel energy, she's going to have incredible money-making ideas come through for her. I'm getting hungry. Anyone need anything in San Diego? Nice. Hey, Scarlet Witch. I told you I had to Google who the Scarlet Witch was because I didn't know who the Scarlet Witch was. Now I know though. Apparently she like goes through different dimensions and like does stuff. I'm like, I can get that. I get that. So does anyone else have any more questions before we wrap this up today? Like I said, I have the Keys to Content course that is starting July 3rd and it's going to be July 6th as well. This is a $99 Crazy Pants Bananas masterclass on content, how to like unkink your hose so that you can just let all of your creative ideas flow through on your Instagram page, on your TikTok page as well. But really, it's like part ceremony. It's also like, so I always like to honor that energetic side, but also like tapping into these archetypes of these gene keys. And then the second day is really about like giving you tools that are like plug and plays to get your brain revved up and ready to post every single day. Because most of the shit that you learn about posting, excuse my French, most of the stuff that you learn about posting, it doesn't work for everybody. It's not a one size fits all. So like learning your human design and gene key profile lines really helps with that. For me, like I used to be somebody that like wanted to post all of the long dramatic things, but really I needed to be posting like tips and I needed to be posting shorter things. I didn't need to go into the ooey gooey of everything every single time. So we really dive into all those different parts and like let the gene keys kind of like light that fire for you in your content. Yes, I'm wearing an organization. The apparel line. Nice. Yeah, so make sure you go to the link in my bio, that keys to content. The link is right there at the very top. And I just hope that you have the most beautiful weekend, that you can take this information about the gene keys and run with them. Make sure you follow me on Instagram, follow me over here because I just go live like a mofo, a post like a mofo. Like I'm just doing this stuff all the time because I love it. And I know more people need to hear about it so that they can become their best selves and make money doing the things that they love. So bye-bye. Have a great day. Bye-bye.